teachings on the practice of Lojong, I've gone back to looking at those teachings again in this past months. The kind of pith instruction, the razor sharp instructions have meant a lot to me in the last 20 years, but it's been a while since I've actually studied them. So picking them up again is feeling very refreshing and reinvigorating. John instructed us in Tonglen, gave us a Tonglen teaching in September, I think. And for a while, I imagined leading that again this morning. But in fact, as I continued to work through what I might share this morning, the deepening mode, compassionate presence to feelings, which is a key practice for me and has been for a long, long time, came up again. Part of that was my confession to you all about where I am right now. That business that we need to go through all the time about being sharply and keenly aware of what it is that we're feeling in the moment and allowing it to be held, and to do that over and over and over again. I think the other thing that's kind of coming together for me is this sense is here. Here in Putney Friends Meeting, in the Quaker part of my life, we have a vigil every week for peace in the common. And we've taken now to having a discussion beforehand. And a young woman who's recently joined our group, we were talking about a letter we might write and things that might be done or said about the Israel-Palestinian, you can't just call it a conflict, but conflagration, came up. And, very pragmatic Catholic, Quaker kind of support the UN, do this, do this. And she just started crying and said, how are we not putting this in the context of the beloved community? How do we talk about that as we do anything around peace? And she really pierced me to the heart, and it made me look again at all my language and how I talk about things, and to come again deeply to this sense that without our calling somehow, or acknowledging, certainly at least to ourselves, that the source of suffering lies in our own utter inability to accept our own suffering. So Fisher says the following: rather than face the suffering, we blame others or the world for the unfortunate things that have happened to us. Or we blame ourselves, imagining that we are essentially incapable of happiness and right action. All of this amounts to a strategy of distraction. Blame is a way of avoiding the actual suffering we feel. And if we're unwilling to face our own suffering, how much more are we unwilling to take in the suffering of others? Let alone be in the world, the whole mass of suffering of this troubled world. There is no way we could even entertain such a thought. But the training proposes that we do exactly that we take in our own suffering, the suffering of our friends, of our communities, and of the world. Because nothing is more effective than this to change our habitual point of view. We develop this capacity with the practice of sending and receiving, which begins with our own willingness to receive and heal our own pain. So today, I'd like to propose that we do just that. And I know this is not new for any of us. And the struggle here is not to be new, innovative, fresh, or different, but just to drop open profoundly. To be willing not to avoid our own condition. To be willing not to blame others as a way of hiding from our own suffering, our own pain and distress. Okay. So John is giving us very helpful advice in the instructions here. First, you have to notice the feeling within any state of mind or body. So if you could just do that for a second right now, just quickly notice the feeling. And even if it's entirely blank or neutral somehow, notice that and see what happens. You're doubting, curious. Whatever it is. And allow that feeling to have all the space it needs. And rest within the feeling. And let everything just be. In some ways, that's the instruction we carry with us everywhere we go. That's the minute-to-minute instruction. True as we're entering this practice where we'll do this a little more comprehensively, allow it time. But no matter where we are, to notice. Make space. Be space. So, if everybody would begin by settling into a relaxed position with your back comfortably straight, your eyes gently gazing downward. Repetition, ritual, such a gateway. Come down from the thinking mind. and letting your breath settle. Notice the groundedness of your body or sensations. Without trying to change any of that, without manipulation, just settling in. Your own bodily awareness. Letting it find its own way of being. And let it have all the space it needs. All sensations arising, dissolving. And now, sense whatever emotional feeling is present within you, within your body. Not thinking about it, but sensing how it feels from within. And at first you might think that there's just nothing going on, that, but you might notice a subtle emotional feeling, as if it were beginning to arise. But perhaps it's something you just haven't been aware of. Maybe a little anxiety or worry. A subtle dissatisfaction with the way things are. A little burr under your saddle. a not quite rightness, a little confusion. Or maybe a stronger feeling. Fear or anger. Annoyance, joy, lightness. Or you may just feel numb. All of these are feelings with which you can work. Perhaps a strong emotional memory is arising. Present because you're experiencing it now. You're feeling. A sense of incapability to make a real difference in the world. And become aware of that feeling with a sense of deep permission for it. Fully allowing it to be here. A quiet welcome. Give it all the space it needs. One feeling may open to another. And without rejecting or enmeshing the feeling, trying to correct it or reason yourself in or out of it. Just allow it to be. And then notice resting spaciously within the feeling without trying to change anything. Just letting everything be. Being with every feeling as it arises and dissolves. If you have difficulty at any stage, just notice the feelings within that reaction and let that feeling have all the space it needs to settle in its own time. If you're distracted, notice the feeling within your body that's associated with those thoughts and become present to that feeling in the same spacious, allowing way. You may find your mind resting right in the essence of a feeling, which may open into a space of deep warmth, calm, peace. And if that happens, just relax deeply into that experience and let everything be. And then just settle fully into this feeling of spacious alone. Let this help your mind to relax deeply. Settle back a bit inwardly. Release all frameworks of concern. Become deeply open like space. Beyond reference points. And as thoughts and feelings arise, just let them process themselves and release within the sky-like openness of awareness, letting everything be.